Hey everyone, Saul from Three Kingdoms Games here. Coming to you today with something I've been really hyped for, waiting for a while, and that's the Modern Horizons spoilers. Now, for those of you who don't know, Modern Horizons is a direct-to-modern set. This is the first time in Magic's history that they have done a set that is brand new cards or reprints that haven't been in Modern yet, with the exception of 5 cards, which I'll get to in a second, going directly to Modern. So it bypasses the having to balance for Standard and then getting to Modern, because the average set that has to go through Standard might have 5 or 6 Modern playable cards, and that's a lot if you even get the 5 or 6. So this is an interesting idea for Wizards to do it. Now, it kind of feels like they're going to be attempting to phase out Legacy with this set, and as I see more and more of these cards get spoiled, it definitely does feel that way. Tell me what you think. Anyways, onward. So when they announced the Modern Horizons set, they showed 2 cards. Sarah the Benevolent, which is a 4 CMC foiled loyalty planeswalker, and all her effects are related to Sarah-themed cards over the many years of Magic. So her +2 gives all your flying creatures +1/+1 till end of turn, so it's Sarah's Aviary, which was an enchantment. -3, you get a Flying Vigilant Angel token, so it's Sarah's Angel. And -6, you get Worship. So as long as you have a creature, you get an emblem that as long as you have a creature, your life can't be reduced below 1. Next up you have, was Cabal's Therapist was spoiled. Now Cabal's Therapist is a 1 CMC, 1/1 with Menace, that at the beginning of a pre-combat main phase, you can sack a creature to essentially use a Cabal Therapy-like effect. So name a card, a non-land card, and you get to look through your opponent's hand, and you get to remove them accordingly. So not, the best card, I think, because honestly, to get good use out of it, you'll end up having to wait till turn 3, so you have other bodies to sack. Otherwise, you're just paying 1 and waiting a turn to Cabal Therapy. So not the best card overall. They spoiled the Buy a Box promo, so now this set will have the Buy a Box promo with it, just like the Standard sets. A lot of Modern players of mine never realized what this was because they don't pay attention to Standard sets. They buy singles exclusively. So what the Buy a Box promo is this is a card that the only way you can get it is by buying a sealed booster box from a store. This Buy a Box promo, I think, is insane. It's Flusterstorm. So Flusterstorm is for 1 CMC, counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller plays 1, and it has Storm. So you get a copy of it for each spell cast before it this turn. So it's not just cast that you've cast this turn, it's all spells cast. So this is pretty much a direct answer to Storm. Not that I think that Storm is a super powerful deck right now, because in the current Modern meta there is a ton of graveyard hate, and generally speaking Storm needs their graveyard to work, so I don't know why they're printing this card specifically, but it means Storm will be kept in check even if graveyard hate kind of dies away. What this means is most control decks that run blue will have 2 of these in their sideboard. Most Storm decks will have 2 of these in their sideboard, and they'll have to wait till they get one in hand or just go for it. Because, you grape shot for $1 billion and they can then go Flusterstorm for $1 billion. And now you have to, counter accordingly. It gets messy. So Flusterstorming their Flusterstorm is pretty much your only answer at that point. Onward to some of these new cards. Now, I mentioned there was 5 reprints this set. The 5 reprints are a land cycle. The land cycle I'm talking about is snow-covered lands. So, I think this is amazing. There are also full art snow-covered lands. So I'm curious to see what this will give to new decks and things like that. They seem to be pushing more of a Simic shell for their snow-covered stuff, but we'll see what this does for the set. Now, first of the new cards I wanted to cover was Force of Negation. It's a 3 CMC instant that you can exile a card from your hand, a blue card from your hand, instead of paying its mana cost, so quasi Force of Will-like effect. And you get to counter target non-creature spell, and if it were countered this way, exile it. Now, the only cards I see this really affecting is if you're playing against someone using a Nexus style deck, or any of the non-creature effects that say shuffle into your library after use. So you counter it, and they exile it instead of it going to their graveyard or anywhere else. But overall, this is not nearly as strong as Force of Will, obviously. And as I was talking to one of my regulars yesterday, his thoughts on it is that losing a card in Legacy from your hand is not as big a deal as losing it from Modern, because you have more ways in Legacy to recoup your hand. Plus, the things you're counting in Legacy have a bigger impact on the game per card than necessarily a Modern non-creature card might have. Now, I don't know how I feel about it. I have to see this in action to really have a good idea, but I think the fact that you can go and counter something by just ditching a card that might be useless from your hand, or ditch an opt, and then you get to counter something, is very, very strong. Next up, we have Seasoned Pyromancer. It's a 3 CMC for a 2/2 human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, you discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you get to draw 2 cards. For each non-land card discarded this way, you get you get a 1/1 red elemental creature token. If you discard 2, you get 2. And then you can also pay 5 CMC. Sorry, you can pay 5 mana. It's not a CMC effect. It is an ability on the card while it's in your graveyard to exile it to get 2 1/1 red elementals. Now, overall, I think this card's okay. Maybe as a filter effect in a red deck, but it's kind of slow for the modern red decks. Because on 3, if you're using something that costs 3, it has to have a huge impact. And this is just not having that same level of impact as you would like it to have. Next up, we have Deep Forest Hermit. It's a 5 CMC. When it enters the battlefield, you get 4 1/1 squirrel tokens. Other squirrel creatures you control get +1/+1 because it's not a squirrel itself. And it has Vanishing 3. This is the first time I've seen a Vanishing effect in a while. So Vanishing, for those of you who don't know, it comes in with 3 time counters on it, and you remove one each time your upkeep comes around. So at the beginning of each of your upkeeps, it loses a Vanishing counter. Once all of them are gone, it leaves play. For 5 CMC, again, there are better cards you can use. Maybe this will see some commander play, but overall, I think it's just not as strong as it could be. Next up, we have Force of Vigor. Force of Vigor is a 4 CMC. Exile a green card from your hand instead of casting it, and you get to destroy 2 targets, either both artifacts or enchantments or a combination in thereof. Now, I think this is actually a really good card because unlike Force of Negation, where you're giving your opponent a 2-for-1 by you losing 2 cards from your hand, one being the counter spell, one being the card you're exiling to cast it, to counter their 1 spell, you're at least trading 1-for-1 with these. So you'll destroy 2 things your opponent has and lose 2 cards from your hand, so at least it's on par. Overall, again, I think it's an okay card. It's probably going to be more of a sideboard thing. But, I'm always curious to see what else will come out of this set. So next up, you have Icefang Cattle. Now, this is the first of the snow-covered permanents that aren't lands that have been spoiled. It's a 2 CMC flash-flying 1/1 snake. That when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card, which is great. 2 mana for drawing a card and giving you a 1/1 body isn't bad, but it gets better. If you have 3 or more other snow-covered permanents, it gains Death Touch. So you can then use it to flash it in, use it like a removal spell, blocking something to kill it, as well as it draws you a card, replacing it in your hand, which right there I think is huge. So I'm curious to see what kind of shell people come up with for this strategy. Now, and this could be Wizards doing what they usually do, which is each set, generally, there is a theme or something that they interject just for that set. Now, it sometimes will get feature support, sometimes it won't get any support. But it's a fun thing usually. This could also be them nodding at, maybe the September set for Standard will have some more snow-covered stuff, if it's the North set like some people think it's going to be. So I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Next up, we have probably one of the strongest cards for Commander so far from this set, and that's Morphon, the Boundless. It's a 7 CMC 6/6 Changeling. When it enters the battlefield, you name a creature type. Any spells you cast from your hand of that creature type, you can then reduce the cost by Wooburg, so 1 of each mana. This only reduces the colored mana. As well as other creatures of that type get +1/+1. So right there, this gives you a commander for any one of those tribal decks that doesn't have a good legendary yet. As well as it will give you access to all 5 colors for supporting whatever tribe you want to do. The other thing, as pointed out to me by one of my regulars who plays a lot of Commander, if you combine this with Joda, because Joda says you can pay 1 of each color instead of paying something's mana cost, you combine these two, you get, free drops of whatever creature type you want from your hand. Pretty strong right there. So overall, I think this is a really, really good card for Commander, and easy addition to a lot of Commander decks. Next up, we have Astral Drift. It's a 3 CMC enchantment that you can cycle for 3, so 2 colorless and a white. When you cycle it, or if it's in play and you cycle something else, you get to exile a creature card, and it returns to the battlefield at the next end step, under its owner's control. So this gives you a quasi-Astral Slide-like effect for use in Modern. Overall, again, I don't know how much of a place this is going to find in the current Modern meta, but the way this set's going to shake up the current modern meta, it might find a home. I think it's very strong to be able to just go, I cycle to exile your creature that's attacking me. Pretty strong that way. Now, they're introducing an interesting land cycle as well in this set so far, and that is very much a Horizon Canopy-like land cycle. So, for those of you who don't know Horizon Canopy, you pay 1 life and tap it. It can give you either a white or a green, and you can pay 1 mana, tap it, sack it, draw a card. What they're giving you now is Sunbaked Canyon. Has the same effect of tapping it, pay 1 life, and you get to add a red or a white to your mana pool, as well as you can pay 1 mana, tap it, sack it, draw a card. Really, really strong, as well as Nourishing Peatland. Same kind of effect, except it gives you black and green. So right there, this gives you great utility lands you can throw into a lot of multicolored decks. Commander, these are definitely going to see a lot of play. And later on, if you don't need the mana anymore, you can get rid of them and draw cards. I think this is a really strong land cycle, and I'm curious to see what else they're going to come out with in this set. So there you have it. That's the first of the Modern Horizons spoilers. Tell me what you think so far of the Modern Horizons spoilers. Do you think this is going to warp Modern in some way? Is there really strong Commander cards? Let me know in the comments below what you think. As always, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Easy way to support us in everything we do. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to hit the little notification icon, the bell in the corner there, so you don't miss any content as it comes out. You can follow us on all major social media. That's in the description box below. As well as follow our blogs at 3kingdomsgames.com. I'll see you next time.